Meeting. It's now 7 p.m. and I would like to start this meeting. I'm Councillor Lynn Worrell. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for publication on the Council's website. Item 1, apologies for absence. Rhiannon, have we received any apologies?
Yes, we have from Councillor Morris Cook.
Thank you very much. Item 2, I move the minutes of the Cabinet meeting of the 13th of January 2026 and the 18th of February 2026 to be approved as a correct record. Are there any comments on the accuracy of these minutes?
No.
None? Okay, thank you. The minutes are approved. I'm just going to unstaple my minutes, I think. I've not agreed to any urgent items of business, other than Councillor Holloway would like to withdraw her nomination to the outside body of Impulse Leisure. Is Cabinet in agreement with this?
Yeah.
Agreed, thank you. Any new nomination will be considered in the next municipal year. Item 4, does anybody have any declarations of interest to make tonight?
No.
No, looking around, no, thank you. Item 5, statements of the leader. I have no statements tonight. Item 6, briefings on policy budgets and other issues. Nothing. No petitions have been submitted by members of the public, so we'll move on to item 8. 2 questions have been submitted by non-executive member Councillor Rigby. As the questions relate to reports on tonight's agenda, we will deal with them when considering the substantive items of 11 and 16 on the agenda. Is that okay, Councillor Rigby? Thank you. Item 9, I am not aware of any matters arising to the Cabinet for consideration by an Overview and Scrutiny Committee, save for the briefing notes that are contained within the agenda, which have been circulated to Cabinet and uploaded online. Item 10, delegated decisions taken since the last meeting. A list of the delegated decisions taken since the last meeting is provided in the agenda and published online. Item 11 is the adoption of the Essex Joint Air Quality Strategy. Councillor Kent, would you introduce the item, and Councillor Rigby will then ask her question after.
So we agreed back in November 2024 to be part of an Essex-wide air quality strategy. Since then, we've been working alongside Southend and Essex County Councils and have produced the All Essex Air Quality Strategy that we have before us this evening. Crucially, it contains an air quality action plan, which for us is a statutory obligation. It also enshrines cross-boundary collaboration in managing air pollution, makes it more likely that we'll be successful in securing external funding, and simplifies delivery of our statutory obligations in regard of local air quality management.
Thank you. Councillor Rigby, would you like to ask your questions?
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Kent, for the report. I can see the advantages of a joint strategy, but given the significant industrialisation, the proposed Lower Thames crossing and the high health inequality levels we have in Thurrock, what measures will be put in place to ensure the action plan will adequately and fairly address issues in the borough?
The joint strategy will help us to work in partnership with neighbouring local authorities on air quality, which is inherently a transboundary issue. Roughly 50% of the air pollution that we suffer in Thurrock comes from outside Thurrock. It makes it more likely that we'll be able to secure external funding for initiatives to improve air quality here in Thurrock. And as part of the ongoing work to achieve the goals in the joint strategy, officers from Thurrock regularly attend officer working groups across Essex set up to deliver the strategy's overarching aims. The proposals contained within the strategy were written in such a way as to recognise the differing needs of each participating authority and allow them the flexibility they need to take individual or collaborative action to meet those needs. The specific measures we will put in place are for us to decide, and the proposals of the working groups will be fed back to Thurrock's portfolio holder for agreement at the appropriate time.
Councillor Rigby, do you have a supplementary for Councillor Kent?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
thank
if
you.
you'd like to ask.
So, in the report, indoor pollution is mentioned. Do you have what are your plans to try and tackle that aspect?
So plans for indoor pollution, the same as any other pollution, are currently being worked through and will be reported at the appropriate time.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions on this one? No. Councillor Kent, can I just ask you a quick one on this? And that is, the air. This is about air pollution, isn't it? And it's quite separate from the dust issue that we've got in Tilbury, and it'll be treated as separately, won't it? It's not that, you know, we're not moving our stance on the dust issue in Tilbury. It's just that it's a different policy.
Yeah, so Councillor Hooper in particular has done an incredible amount of work trying to get some traction on the Tilbury dust issue. It is an issue that we take incredibly seriously. It's not an issue that has had the kind of import that I think it deserves for far too long, but we are now starting to get a grip of it. Councillor Hooper particularly has been choosing words carefully, has been promised that there will be a Tilbury dust reporting line, which still hasn't happened. But we will get that up and running as soon as we can, because it will help us to collate real-time information as to when the dust issue in Tilbury as it is worse, which will help us to identify where it's coming from and build that body of evidence that we need to take decisive action against the perpetrator of the problem. It's about gathering the evidence, then using that evidence to get the change we need. But as I say, Councillor Hooper may have more to say.
Councillor Hooper, have you got anything that you'd like to add?
Right. The funds are made available for the helpline. They've come from Public Health. The ideal time to actually have the helpline is coming up very shortly, over the kind of like the spring-summer period where the dust settles. Whilst it's wet, the dust tends to stay on the ground. So ideally, that's when we need the phone lines active. What's also been happening is we've actually met with the ports of Tilbury, and to talk about the issues of the dust. We are trying to work with the Port of Tilbury and the environment agencies to hold work with companies to reduce their dust emissions, or to be held to account if they're actually not meeting their legal obligations. So this work is ongoing. I'm hoping there's a report going to place ONS next week where I hope we'll have more up-to-date information about where we are on the phone line and how we're working with our partners. Basically, we want the port and the industries of the port to be good neighbours, because we benefit from the port. A lot of people who live in Tilbury work in the port. So as a community, we benefit from the port, but we're just asking them to be good neighbours. And at the moment, we're putting the wheels in motions to make that better for the people of Tilbury.
Thank you. I think I agree with you wholeheartedly about the problem is not as bad in the winter. I mean, it's no secret that I actually live in Tilbury and I'd be the first to complain. But in the summer, I can literally clean the garden furniture daily and the tables. But in the winter, it's literally nothing there because simply the air's too heavy. It doesn't travel across Tilbury to be able to, you know, get to the garden furniture. Is how I measure it. It's like how dirty the garden furniture is. So I agree, but what we must do is keep the council on track for making sure that they do put that helpline in, and so that people can do that, because you just go round in circles otherwise. So I think that it's certainly an action for this council to make sure that that helpline does go there, the money's there, the mechanism's there, and it does need to happen.
All I'd say, Leader, is the money is there. It's about all officers organising it and putting that into place, and then putting it out there to the people of Tilbury to use. We've also been working with the Port of the Environment Agency, because their phone line's not helpful. People phone the phone line and they'll ask, what's the location of where the dust is coming from? That's really difficult for people to actually do. My understanding is the Environment Agency is, as a result of this, is going to be changing the way they're asking those questions when people make those phone calls. Because ideally, the ideal place is the Environment Agency should deal with this, not necessarily the council. So I'm hoping as we go forward there'll be better news about that, as I say, but I look forward to the report going to place ONS next week.
Does anybody else have any questions on this report? No. John, are you okay for us to take your... There's a lot of recommendations for this one. Are you okay for us to take them as written, or do you want to read them out?
There's only the one.
Oh, is there really? I thought I read a lot. Do you want to read your one recommendation?
I'll read the one, which is the Cabinet formally adopts the strategy as local policy as originally approved at Cabinet in November 2024.
Agreed, thank you. Oh, it's my one that's got all of the ones, so I'll be doing those as written, thank you. So moving on to item 12, which is the Thames Freeport Business and Finance Plan 2026 to 2027 and associated grant funding agreement. So this is my report, and so Thames Freeport represents one of the most significant economic opportunities in our region's recent history, spanning an economic zone across Thurrock and the London boroughs of Havering and Barking and Dagenham. The Freeport is projected to create 21,000 jobs and attract 4.6 billion of investment over the next 25 years, transforming our communities and driving long-term growth across East London and South Essex. This council plays a central and responsible role in making that vision a reality. We act as an accountable body, ensuring proper assurance and oversight of public funds, as a delivery partner, actively working to realise the Freeport's objectives, and as a billing authority, administering the business rates reliefs that underpin the programme's financial model. These roles carry real obligations, and this Cabinet report sets out how we intend to fulfil them for the year ahead. The Freeport is now moving from start-ups into a genuine delivery phase, with investment beginning to flow and projects taking shape on the ground. This paper asks Cabinet to approve 10.95 million to fund the 2026-27 Freeport Business Plan, drawing on government funding provided through Section 31 grant payments within the agreed Memorandum of Understanding. It also seeks delegated authority for officers in consultation with members to approve the final business plan and sign the annual grant funding agreement once the necessary assurance checks and subsidy control assessments have been completed. I am pleased to bring this report to Cabinet. The decisions we take today will ensure that the Council continues to meet its responsibility, that Thames Freeport Limited can press ahead with delivery, and that our residents and businesses can begin to benefit from the jobs, the investment and the regeneration that this programme will bring. So that is the report. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the report? No? Okay, then I'm going to go straight to the recommendations, and I'd like to take them as written because there's a fair amount of recommendations for us to read. Is that okay for us to do that? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to then move on to item 13, which again is my item, the Corporate and Improvement Plan, Q3 Corporate Performance Report. So I'm pleased to present the Q3 Corporate Performance Report to Cabinet. It's one of my favourite documents, actually. And this report is vital in helping us understand how our in-year activity is delivering our corporate and improvement plan, and crucially how we are meeting the expectations we have set for ourselves as the Labour administration. For us, performance is not just about the numbers, it is about delivering on Labour's priorities: strong, accountable local government, high quality public services and real outcomes for our residents, particularly those who rely on us the most. Despite the backdrop of any forthcoming elections, it is important that we recognise both how far we have come and how far we still have to go to become a fully sustainable authority. Since the intervention, we have made significant progress, and this report reflects a council that is more open, more transparent and more honest about its performance. There is no argument that we are improving as a council. We do not shy away from our challenges. Instead, we are building a culture that reflects Labour values, one that celebrates success but also confronts underperformance head-on. We are clear where things are working and equally clear where improvement is still needed. This quarter's report shows good progress against the commitments that we set for this year. It also highlights the sheer breadth of the work being delivered across the council. I want to take this opportunity to thank our officers across the council who are not only maintaining services but actively improving them for our communities. Importantly, we are stretching ourselves against a wide range of performance measures. Where performance is not where it should, we will be identifying issues early and we take action early. Areas such as smoking rates amongst residents and the culture of recycling demonstrates the complexity of the challenges we face, but also our determination to take innovative approaches and drive improvement. Our approach to performance management is also maturing. We are increasingly bringing together teams across different disciplines to tackle deep-rooted and complex issues, ensuring that we don't just monitor performance, but we actively intervene to improve the outcomes. This reflects our commitment to joined-up, efficient public services that work for residents. I am also encouraged by the work underway to better align assurance functions such as risk, audit, finance and people services. By sharing data and insight more efficiently, we are building a more intelligent picture of how this council is performing, strengthening accountability and decision making. Over the past year, these reports have given Cabinet the assurance that our corporate plan priorities are being delivered and that our improvement journey is on track. It is also reassuring that the Commissioner's sixth report reflects both the progress we have made and the areas where further work is needed, demonstrating a shared and honest assessment of our position. There has been a clear step change in how we hold ourselves to account. We have strengthened the quality and reliability of our data, aligned it with the recognised standards and ensured it is comparable with similar councils, meaning we are more transparent, more credible and more accountable to our residents. With these stronger foundations now in place, we must continue to build on this progress. There is no room for complacency. As we move into the next year and towards our final year as Thurrock Council, we must ensure that we remain focused, disciplined and ambitious in delivering for our communities. So thank you. That is the report before you tonight. And again, I'm happy to take any comments or questions that anybody has on the corporate report. Councillor Watson.
So the only comment I've got is I'm pleased to see on here about the health assessments, the individual health assessments on there from Children's Services, and even though it has made some progress from 23% to 41%, I like the good work that the corporate parenting is actually doing, as well as the Children's ONS that is continuing to push that through. So if working alongside the officers, if that can still carry on, we should be able to hit that hopefully more than 60% mark. So other than that, I'm happy with the report. A lot of work to be done though.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to recommendations, which you can find on page 162 of the reports tonight, and 2.1 and 2.2. Are these recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed, thank you. Now moving on to procurement of the waste treatment and haulage contracts. Councillor Holloway, to introduce your report, please.
Thank you, Leader. This report seeks Cabinet approval to procure an external provider for the provision of handling, haulage and disposal of waste streams, replacing 3 existing contracts that are currently due to expire on the 12th of December 2026. Given that these contracts are expiring at the same time, there's an opportunity here to procure these 3 contracts as a single contract, benefiting from economies of scale. It will also simplify ongoing contract management, having only 1 contract in place and 1 point of contact for all the required services. And it is important to maintain competitive tension on the market, however, to achieve competitive rates given the Council's financial challenges. Therefore, the proposal is to conduct an open procurement exercise for the replacement of all 3 contracts with 1 new combined contract. This will provide the opportunity for bidders to put forward their best proposals and should achieve better value for money for the council as a result. Based on our current knowledge of the market, there are existing suppliers that deliver all of the required services and or have their own waste transfer stations. Therefore, opening up the opportunity to competition using an open tender process should result in a good competition.
Does anybody have any comments or questions for Councillor Holloway? No? Sensible? Yep, okay. Then if you'd like to move straight to your recommendations.
Would you like me to read out the recommendations or take? I will take the recommendations as read on pages 237 and 238. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. And then we'll be moving on to... Oh, sorry, does everybody agree with those recommendations? Agreed, sorry, thank you. Moving on to item 15, which is local transport consolidated funding for 2026-27. And again, Councillor Holloway, this is your report.
Thank you again, Leader. Thurrock Council has been asked to submit a local transport delivery plan by the Department for Transport by the 20th of March 2026, outlining proposed revenue and capital expenditures for the year 2026-27 and indicative expenditure through to 2028-29 for revenue funds and 2029-30 for capital funding. The DFT have confirmed that in the absence of a county combined authority for Greater Essex, the 2026-27 allocation will be paid directly to local transport authorities, i.e. us. Subsequent payments will be made to the newly formed county combined authority once it's been established. As of the financial year 2028-29 and subsequent election of a mayor, all 5 funding streams will then become the Mayoral Transport Fund, or the MTF. The local transport delivery plan covers 5 funding streams: highway maintenance, active travel, electric vehicle, local transport grant and the local authority bus grant, totalling £7,851,800 for the financial year 2026-27 and £40,552,700 through until March 2030. That's a combination of both capital and revenue, and the high level detail is contained in paragraph 4.5 of the report. These enhancements are aligned with the Council's draft transport strategy, which was approved by Cabinet in November, as well as the adopted highways maintenance strategy, the highway asset management strategy, local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, the electric vehicle strategy, and the bus service improvement plan, all of which you will know have come to Cabinet. The proposals in the report will collectively support improvements in travel choice by improving bus and active travel infrastructure, minimising congestion by ensuring the maintenance of highway network and enhancement to routes, and decarbonisation through the coordinated delivery of electric charging points across the borough. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Does anybody have any comments, questions? No, straight to the recommendations.
I will take them as read.
Agreed? Okay, thank you. We're moving on to item 16, which is accommodation and support pathway for 16 to 25 looked after children, care leavers, former UASC and homeless young people.
Thank you, Leader. I'm just going to repeat that bit again then. So the report tonight is to approve the recommissioning of accommodation and support for young people aged 16 to 25, including our looked after children, care leavers, former UASC, homeless young people, and that's in line with our statutory duties and the sufficiency strategy 2025 to 2030. Just turning to the reason for change, the previous framework ended in March 2025 and our current model of spot purchasing is high cost, unstable and does not meet the varied needs that we have here in the borough. There is also a budget pressure of 0.6 million, which is a £1.5 million budget versus a 2.1 million forecast spend, which obviously we need to address. The model proposed is one of a flexible needs-led pathway which tackles the current gaps that we have in our current offer. And the 3 options that we're looking at to go out to procurement is for staffed HMOs, which is the model we currently have, which is staffed 24/7 or on a part-time basis. Supported lodgings, which could potentially be delivered in-house, And we're also looking at our independent living for our young people that are appropriate for that support. And that would be units with floating support. And then obviously there will also be links to our adult social care services for those young people aged 18 to 25 with the most complex needs. The commissioning approach that we're looking to take is a new framework or dynamic purchasing model, suitable, and we will make sure that it's suitable for post-LGR structures. We are looking to commission it and co-produce it with care experienced young people. There is the potential for joint commissioning with Essex and Southend, and we're going to ensure that the contracts will come with KPIs, price ceilings, and then block or spot purchase options. The timeline is laid out in the report, and we're currently in the design and co-production phase. We then move to tender, looking at decision-making process, Ofsted registrations, and then we're aiming to go live with this in March 2027. Just focusing obviously on equality, because that's extremely important, and our duties under equality. We are making sure that a full community equality impact assessment will be completed with care experienced young people, because obviously we have now recognised that as an equality characteristic. And the new model aims to improve stability, safety and outcomes. So just in summary, a full redesign of the 16 to 25 accommodation and support is proposed to replace an unsustainable spot purchasing and deliver a more stable, cost-effective statutory compliance system shaped alongside care experienced young people. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Hartstein. Councillor Rigby, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Hartstein. So with the shortage of accommodation in Thurrock and the supported housing strategy as a long-term project, together with considering the joint commission with Essex and or Southend, how confident are you that the procurement will lead to sufficient homes being found within Thurrock?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Rigby. So as part of developing the programme today, we have already been in conversation with a number of providers who, those who are already providing in Thurrock that are keen to continue to offer us homes that we need, or those who are considering expansion into Thurrock. Last week, the head of the commissioning service, alongside the League Commissioner for Children's Social Care, met with a large provider that operates over much of London and the South East, but not currently in Thurrock. They discussed in general terms our plans to recommission services and the new model that we hope to develop. They said that they would be very happy to co-design this model with us and look forward to involvement in any future tendering. And then I also dug deep into this sort of very recently, and there is a similar model with other local authorities that they operate at the moment, so there is the confidence out there that they will be able to do this. And then also looking into that further, our conversations with potential and existing providers tells us that there is sufficient accommodation available for them to fulfil the demand within the proposed contracts. If we undertake any of the proposed development with another local authority, we will expand the geographical area over which homes are required to include the new local authority. And just to reiterate that the contract will be written in such a way as to make sure that there is flexibility to continue to meet local needs following LGR. Thank you.
Councillor Rigby, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. Yes, you mentioned flexibility, so my question was going to be sort of what sort of time time period for the contract you're looking at.
I keep changing my glasses, sorry. In terms of rollout, do you mean? Sorry.
In terms of a procurement, so you're looking to sign up for sort of a 5-year period or a 10-year period, or is it sort of on a review basis?
That one I will come back to you with, because I want to make sure I've got the detail correct on that one, but I will come back to you in writing on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hartstein, and thank you, Councillor Rigby, for your questions. Does anybody else have any questions on this? No? Then we're going to go straight to the recommendations. Councillor Hartstein.
Thank you, Leader. Do you want me to read them out? We're starting a trend now. I'm going to read them out. So, for the reasons set out in the report, the Cabinet is recommended to 2.1, endorse the proposals set out in this report. 2.2, to delegate decisions concerning the design of the ITT through the arrangements described in this report to the Executive Director of Children's Services following consultation with the lead member for Children's Services. And 2.3, to require that officers present their recommendations for the award of new contracts to Cabinet for their decision prior to entering into any arrangement with external providers.
Is that agreed? Okay,
Agreed.
thanks
you.
everybody. We're going to move on to item 17 now, which is the award of the contract for end user equipment. And with Councillor Maurice Cook not here, then I'm going to be presenting her reports tonight. I'd like to please note that the next 4 Cabinet reports have exempt appendices. Therefore, I remind Cabinet members not to discuss the contents of those appendices while we are in an open meeting. If Cabinet members do wish to discuss their contents, we would need to take a vote to go into a closed session. The webcast will be paused and members of the public will be asked to leave the meeting. So are we happy to proceed as an open meeting?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, thank you. So I'm introducing this report on behalf of Councillor Valerie Maurice Cook, who couldn't be here today. The report before us asks to approve the award of a 3-year contract for the supply of end-user IT equipment for staff and elected members, including laptops, desktops, tablets, mobile phones and associated peripherals. Much of the Council's current IT equipment is now beyond its normal lifespan, so replacing it is essential to support the Council's transformation programme, enable flexible working and maintain cybersecurity and systems resilience. Members will recall that Cabinet agreed in July 2025 to proceed with a procurement for this provision. A compliant procurement was undertaken through a Crown Commercial Service Framework. 3 bids were received and evaluated on a 60% price and 40% quality basis. Specialist Computer Centre plc achieved the highest overall score and offers the best value for money. The contract also includes no minimum spend requirement, providing flexibility over the 3-year term. The preferred bid sits within the approved £1.7 million capital budget. However, due to potential price increases from 2026 linked to global supply chain pressures, the report also seeks delegated authority for officers to manage any resulting cost of supply risks. I therefore recommend the Cabinet approve the contract award to Specialist Computer Centre plc and delegated authority to senior officers to manage any market-driven cost or supply issues. So that is the report before you. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that report? Nothing too technical, I ask. No? Okay then. We're going to go straight to the recommendations, which can be found on pages 292, 2.1, 2.2. Are these recommendations agreed? Thank you very much. We're then going to move on to item 18, which I'll be introducing this one too, which is the next tranche of assets for disposal. I'm introducing this report again on behalf of Councillor Maurice Cook. This report brings forward the next tranche of assets within the Council's asset disposal programme, seeking approval to dispose of a number of non-operational land and property assets across the borough. The tranche includes 9 assets grouped into clear categories: amenity land and open space that serve no public function, landlocked or constrained parcels with no practical use, vacant or underutilised sites with no service requirement, and 1 small commercial property at 8 Limpford Road, which, while income generated, sits outside of our strategic priorities and carries ongoing risk. Across all categories, these are assets that are not required for the service delivery, do not support our corporate priorities, and in many cases create a management burden without delivering public value. Of course, we are aware that we are in a difficult position as an authority, and selling assets always comes with mixed feelings. However, members can be reassured that all sites have been reviewed across services, no current or future operational need has been identified, and any disposals will be carried out in line with our statutory duty to achieve best consideration. This is a sensible and proportionate step as we continue to rationalise our estate, ensuring we focus on assets that support our communities and frontline services while releasing value from those that do not. The report therefore recommends that Cabinet declares these assets surplus, approves their disposal and delegates authority to officers to progress the necessary negotiations and agreements. And again, not too technical, but I'm happy to take any comments or questions on this. Councillor Watson.
Thank you. Thanks, Leader. I know this isn't your report,
No.
and you may not know the answer, but the land at 560 London Road, it's across social media right now. I want guaranteed that this is not the sale of Cowdray Hall, which sits on 560 London Road, but it is a separate piece of land that sits off of West Up Road.
Thank you. I also see this this item on social media, and just to make it very, very clear that no, the council is not disposing of Cowdray Hall. The asset proposed for disposal is land at 560 London Road, Grays, described as land to the east of the 126, comprising of an unmaintained space with trees and vegetation. The land forms part of a wider title which does include Cowdray Hall Community Centre, but the hall is excluded from the proposed sale. So absolutely not is Cowdray Hall up for sale as part of this asset disposal.
Okay.
Thank you. You can.
Probably. So the other thing with this land is there's an access point that goes through the allotments from South Road. Can I just have it guaranteed that the allotments will remain where they are once we sold this land, and those allotments are not touched at all?
This isn't something that I've been involved with, but I can assure you that I've never seen allotments up for sale. I mean, I believe that there's probably a waiting list for allotments here in Thurrock. There certainly is allotments where we are, so I assume that the allotments are not part of, and it doesn't open any land to allow for allotments to be sold. So absolutely, Councillor Watson, it's neither Cowdray Hall or the allotments or anywhere near this. It's just a piece of surplus land.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions on this report? No? Okay. Then we're going to go straight to the recommendations, which you can find on page 304, which is 2.1 and 2.2 of the reports, 2.3 of the reports before us tonight.
Agreed.
Is that all agreed? Okay, thank you. So then I'm moving on to, I've got another one, sorry. I've got a lot of reports in front of me tonight. So we're moving on to item 19, which is the freehold disposal of 2 enterprise centres. And again, this report would have been Councillor Morris Cook. She says she's took a good night off tonight and left me with her reports. So this report seeks approval to dispose of 2 enterprise centres, which is the Riverside Enterprise Centre in Tilbury and the Thurrock Centre for Business in Grays as part of our wider asset disposal programme. This programme is a key element to the Council's improvement and recovery plan and medium-term financial strategy, and is focused on ensuring that our property portfolio is both fit for purpose and financially sustainable. These two assets are non-operational commercial properties. Whilst they provide managed workspace, they are not required for the delivery of statutory services, and they operate in a competitive market where alternative provision already exists locally. The critical issue here is financial sustainability. Independent modelling shows that although these centres generate income, that income is not sufficient to cover the council's full cost of ownership, including borrowing and repayment costs. As a result, they require an ongoing revenue subsidy that position worsens over time. They also fail to meet the council's value for money threshold, meaning retention is not affordable within our financial current framework. Disposal, therefore, represents the most responsible course of action. It will generate capital receipts already forecast within the MTFS, reduce borrowing and interest costs, and remove future financial and operational risk from the council. Importantly, this will not impact existing businesses. The centres are leased and will continue operating, ensuring continuity for tenants. What we are doing is stepping back from direct ownership of the assets that the market has the ability to manage. The report therefore recommends that the assets are declared surplus, marketed for disposal, and that delegated authority is provided to progress the transitions in line with best value requirements. This is a pragmatic and necessary decision to support the council's financial recovery and long-term resilience. Does anybody have any comments that they'd like to make on this report? No? Okay. Then I'm going to move straight on to recommendations 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3. Are these recommendations agreed? Agreed. Okay. And then we're going to move on to the last item of the evening, which is Purfleet-on-Thames regeneration. Councillor Watson, can I ask that you introduce your report?
Thank you, Leader. So I am really pleased to introduce a report on the regeneration of Purfleet-on-Thames, which remains a key priority not just to the council but also to me. This is a significant and ambitious project with the potential to deliver around 2,850 new homes across a mixture of tenures, including affordable housing. It will be centred around a new town centre, supported by the vital infrastructure such as a new bridge over the railway to enable the closure of the level crossing, a redevelopment station, a primary school, medical facilities and new employment space. This proposal strongly aligns with the Labour's ambitions to increase housing supply, particularly generally and really genuine affordable homes, and to drive forward the regeneration of our town so that are vibrant, inclusive places where people can live, work and thrive. It reflects our commitment to invest in communities and deliver long-term growth. It also supports the work the community in Purfleet-on-Thames have undertaken over many, many years. Cabinet members will recall that a previous Cabinet took the decision to terminate the housing infrastructure funding agreement with Homes England and the development agreement with PCRL. I supported that decision, as despite the best efforts of officers and members to support PCRL in securing private sector funding to progress the project, it had stalled, and persisting with PCRL was no longer in the best interest of the council or to the residents, I felt, for Purfleet-on-Thames. We worked closely with Homes for England in taking that decision, and they also supported this approach. Since then, we have worked with Muse Places and several of the key consultants previously employed by PCRL, as well as with Homes England, to review the deliverability of the project and look at whether changes in both the design and delivery of the project would enable it to progress. That work has access to the work previously undertaken by PCRL and funded through the Council and Homes England. The business plan work has concluded that whilst the project remains very challenging and complex and will require changes in design and further significant public sector investment, most likely through additional support from Homes England, particularly in ensuring that the key infrastructure is delivered up front, it has the potential to deliver. The work to review the previous plans and designs has concluded that some changes to the previous scheme includes an alternative alignment for the proposed new bridge across the railway line, a new location for the station and primary school, and a replacement of the proposed film studios with mixed light industrial and employment use targeting small and medium-sized businesses will improve connectivity across Purfleet, deliver a more inclusive scheme and deliver cost savings. These changes have been shared through the Purfleet on Thames Community Forum and I thank you for that. And I will ensure that the community continues to be engaged in evolution and delivery of this project. This report, therefore, provides an update on progress in developing the business plan for delivery and seeks Cabinet's agreement to appoint Muse Place, supported by the English Cities Fund, as the Council's preferred master developer for the scheme. Subject to approval today, officers will move forward to finalise the terms of the development agreement, which will be brought back to Cabinet for final approval at a later date. The report also seeks agreement to allocate £450,000 from the Freeport Counterfactual Reserve to support the specialist planning, legal and financial advice needed to ensure that the terms of the development agreement are in the best interest of the Council and that Cabinet is fully aware of the risk and implications of entering into it when a decision to do so is brought back to them. This is also a very important step forward in delivering a transformation regeneration programme for Purfleet on Thames, and I commend the recommendations to Cabinet for approval. I would also like to thank the Forum for everything that they have done, and they've literally, my residents have had to wait decades to get this across the line. Thank you.
Does anybody else have a comment on this one? No. Councillor Kent.
So Councillor Watson says that residents have been waiting for decades, and I remember back in the mid-1990s, what was then known as Planning for Real was piloted down in Purfleet, and residents had all kinds of promises at that time, which 30 years on have never been delivered. And I think there's been a real history of over-promising and under-delivering on Purfleet, and I think as I read the report, we still have that kind of sense of over-optimism. So tell me what's going to be different this time. Why are we actually going to deliver the scheme this time?
Councillor Watson.
Thank you. I think going back, if I think about the old scheme, to be frank with you, it was all done with private funding, and we only had input from Homes from England on a slight scale. This one is fully backed now by Homes from England. It's more of a government that's come forward and recognised that this is actually achievable, and it's one of their priorities going forward across the country that they actually want to build this home and see this as a real opportunity within Purfleet.
Anything else, Councillor Kent? No. Anybody else? Councillor who?
Yeah, I'd like to, with my housing hat on, know what is affordable, how we're classifying affordable, and is affordable for Thurrock, directed at Thurrock people, like people on a housing waiting list, for example, and so is that affordable to buy, is it affordable to rent as well, and are they prioritised for Thurrock people?
Thank you. I think coming forward, there will have to be discussions on that. Affordability for me and the discussions that I have been having are on a mixed range of tenure, not just full private sale, but also there's shared ownership projects. There's also what I call LHA affordable rent, which is people that's on benefit that can actually afford the rent that's going forward, as well as up to 80% is what affordable is. So there's a whole scale of what can happen on affordability products to make this scheme actually work, and that needs to be done through the financial modelling as and when the schemes start coming on.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, I just want to draw that out a little bit more in terms of Thurrock people having the advantage of this. So the low rents and the low buys are prioritised for Thurrock people.
One of the conversations that I've really wanted and I've really pushed with officers is that maybe the first 6 months of any scheme going up, that is advertised first to Thurrock first before it starts going on to the wider, the wider thing. Like if I take the 36 that's already been built there, some of them, over half of them, are actually like Thurrock residents that have moved on into them. So, and that was delayed quite significantly. So that's why I just don't want Purfleet to go back to being let down, because they have over the time, and I think they deserve a lot more than that, and to have this.
That's good news. I'm just wanting to get our own housing waiting list down and our homeless figures down. Thank you.
Anybody else? No, before we go to your recommendations, Councillor Watson, I want to say thank you for the work that you've done on this and for making sure that we got this report to here tonight before the end of the municipal year. It would have been very easy for us to say there's still work to be done on it, but to make sure that we keep the project alive and moving forward at a pace, you know, so thank you for that. And I'm like Councillor Kent, I think I've been to many a presentation on what they're going to be doing in Purfleet, and then it just gets moved and the goalpost moves and moves. So absolutely making sure that this report is here tonight and step forwards is a good thing, you know, and it's a good project. So we have to make sure that, you know, we keep going. So, but well done for the work that you've done. Well done for the forum. I know the forum's involved with anything that goes on up there. Their name is always top of the list with being involved and having an input. So thank you to you too for the work that you've done. And then just to move to your recommendation.
Thank you. So recommendations are on page 368, 2.1 to 2.4. I think you've all read them. Thank you.
Are they agreed? Okay, thank you. And that was the last item on the agenda tonight. So thank you, everyone. That concludes the business. And I now declare the meeting closed at 7:47. Good night.